Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad you could join us for tonight's STEAM time. We are going to have some fun today. We are looking at recycled rockets. We're going to throw a little bit of physics in there for our science of the day, but we're going to have some fun building rockets. So we're going to jump right in and look at what our goals are for today. So we're first going to look at introducing Newton's laws of motion. You might have heard of these talked to, the first law of motion, the second law of motion. We're going to kind of go through what those are. Then we're going to go through a step-by-step of how to build the rocket with things that you might have laying around at home. And then we're going to figure out how that rocket works. And then we'll give you a little bit of a challenge and what you can maybe do to make some engineering changes on your rocket and how you might improve it for the next launch. And we'll show you where you can get the activity download for that so that you can try this at home later on. Maybe build up those skills. So we're going to go through that first law of motion here. So the first one is what I call the I don't wanna law. It's the law about inertia. And inertia is the resistance of an object to being accelerated by force. So an object just doesn't want to move unless something really pushes hard enough to make it move. So that's kind of what inertia is. And the same thing goes the other direction, though. Once I get moving, once I start playing, once I start having fun, I'm going to stay in motion until something forces me to slow down and makes me stop. So it's the I don't want to go and I don't want to stop, that first law of motion, inertia. So our rocket is going to stay completely still unless something forces it to move. So you might also see the word mass come up. So this is really what we're talking about here when we talk about inertia, is that mass and what it does. So you're going to also hear the word force come up. So force is when you have mass times acceleration. That's this beautiful formula. It's very simple, very complicated too. So it can be tricky. So acceleration of an object depends on the object's mass or inertia and how much force is applied. So the acceleration, how much it moves, how much it gets going, that really depends on how much inertia, how much I don't wanna that object has, and how much of the but you gotta makes it do something. So the more you want that rocket to accelerate, the more force you have to use. Same token, the more you want that rocket to slow down so that maybe you can land it again, the more force you have to use to slow it. So to reach a certain speed, you're going to use either a little bit of force for a long time or a lot of force right away. There's two different ways that you can do that. So when we say force, force is an influence that's applied to an object that results in acceleration. How much but you gotta you apply to the I don't wanna. And Newton's third law of motion, we've got that action and reaction. So you probably heard this at some time before. For every action, there is an equal and an opposite reaction. So our rocket engine, it produces what we call thrust, and that thrust works against the weight. So when we stomp on that pouch, the air is pushed through that straw and it's forced through there, and that builds up that pressure inside of it until it shoots out of the back of the rocket. And that is going to cause the rocket to move in an opposite direction of where that air is going with an equal force to how much of that to an equal force of that air coming out of the other side. All right, we have our instructions up on the screen here. Not to worry. It's a lot of information and we're not going to stay on this screen for very long, but I have for you a link that I'm going to put in our chat box, and that link will take you to the activity download. It's a handout, it's a worksheet that goes along with this. It'll have the supply list and the instructions on there, and it'll also have our engineering challenge on there. And I'll post it again at the end of the program so you can download it at the end, but just wanted to make sure that that was in there for you. So what we need is an empty juice pouch, or you can use really anything that's going to be where you can put a straw into it and that you can squish. So when we say juice pouch, we're looking at something like maybe a Capri Sun juicy pouch, or if you're using a juice carton, it's a little bit trickier because you can't really easily reinflate it. So you really want something that's going to be a pouch that you can use and put that straw into. So you'll need one flexible straw, and that one's going to be your launcher, and then one regular straw, so one straight straw. Now, ideally, that regular straw is going to be bigger than the flexible straw, because the flexible straw will sit there, and then you'll put the regular straw on top of it as a launcher. So you want the one to fit inside of the other. You'll need some index cards. If you don't have index cards, you can just use scrap pieces of like a cereal box or junk mail. You want something that's easy for you to cut, but that's more sturdy than regular paper. You'll want some duct tape. Doesn't really have to be duct tape, but any kind of tape that you can use to make a nice airtight seal. So you can use regular paper tape or Scotch tape. It's a little bit harder to get a nice good seal with that, but you can also use electrical tape. Any kind of tape will work. You just might need to use more of one kind than the other. You'll want a ruler and some scissors as well. So let's go with our step one, assembling the launcher. So you see on our pictures here at the bottom, we have that bendy straw, that flexible straw. And we've got it going inside of the juice box here. And we've got the other one that's going to be the body of our rocket. That's just like a regular straw. It's going to be a little bit bigger and it'll fit on top of that. Let's see if we can get our video playing here. Let's see. There we go. Now our video is playing. Perfect. All right, so we're snipping off the end of that bendy straw here. That's going to help it go inside of the pouch a little bit easier. One nice pokey end there. So there's already a little bit of a hole there, but we made it just a little bit bigger so that that bigger straw can fit inside of it. And then we have our regular size straw here. So our helper that was making this video, he was pointing the scissors towards himself. You always want to make sure you point those scissors away from you. Next thing we're going to do is assemble those fins. Now the fins are what we use to stabilize our flight. That helps it stay on a nice even path and helps the air go around it in an even way. I have your measurements on here. Don't worry about writing that down right now. It'll be on the handout so that you can measure it out later. But you're kind of making these trapezoid forms right here. So you see our friend Andre is marking his fins on that cardstock, getting that nice and assembled for us. And he's folding it in half. And he's going to put first one side on the one side of the rocket body, and he's going to wrap that tape around and then put the other half of it on. And just wrap it around with a piece of tape to kind of sandwich those fins on one side and then the other of your rocket body. He's adding a little bit of extra tape at the bottom, just kind of seal up that bottom edge. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're just holding it in place here. As long as that top part is sealed, you'll be okay. All right, now he has the other fin that's been folded in half. Just tape that together to kind of hold it in place. And we're putting that on the very top of the rocket, kind of like a shark fin sticking out of the top there. He's using a little bit more tape to sandwich that there. All right, now that he has all three of them on, he can adjust those and space them out differently. And depending on how those fins are spaced, it'll control the trajectory of that rocket. So the next thing we're going to want to make is our nose cone. So the very tip of that rocket, the nose cone, you see he's got basically just taking the tape and wrapping it around the end there and making a nice airtight seal there so that the gas that's being pushed into it can't escape from the top. Because remember, we want to build up that pressure inside of the body until it shoots out of the back. And if there's a leak at the top, it won't go quite as fast or as far, which means it might not have enough acceleration to overcome the inertia. So you see he's just wrapping the tape around the very top edge of the rocket, folding it over to make a seal across the end, and then wrapping more tape around it to hold it in place. So just layering it up there and getting as much tape as he can get on there to really shape that nose cone. Another thing that you can do here is if you have maybe some putty or some Play-Doh, you might try putting a little bit in the end of the tip of the nose cone there and then shaping a nose cone out of that. You can try all kinds of different things when you work on your engineering challenge and maybe see what you can do to make it fly farther and faster. You might try some different materials. All right, step 4, we are in our final assembly. All right, we have the launcher there. We've got that juice pouch and we have the launcher straw. Oh no. So he's got the rocket on the launcher and we'll 3, 2, there we go. That was successful. So we've got our instant replay here where he's forcing the air out of the pouch really fast all at once. And that builds up all of that air pressure from inside of the pouch, inside of the rocket body until it can't have any more room in there and it shoots out of the back, giving us our thrust. We'll do one more replay for you here. Got our rocket on the launcher, 3, 2, and that was the failed launch. We'll try it one more time, and 3, 2, 1. We ready? And you got it. All right, let's do a little review here of what we saw. Pull this up here. We're going to review what we just looked at. So we have pressurization of the air container. So that's going to be our juice pouch. We have the initial acceleration along the launch tube. So that's that green straw that we had inside. We have the compressed air shooting out of the back of the rocket. So our 1, 2, 3 steps here. So with stomp rockets, we use up all of that thrust right away in one go. With real rockets, the kind we actually use to launch satellites and people into space, we don't use all of that thrust up at once. We have different kinds of rockets and different stages of rockets. So they use up a lot of thrust to get up off of the launch pad, but then they use a different kind of launch to actually get us up out of the atmosphere and into orbit and moving around orbit. So all of those are going to be different stages and parts and types of the rocket. Have you ever watched a rocket launch from your backyard here in Florida if you live in Hillsborough County? If Sometimes if you look up in the evening and you look east towards where Cape Canaveral is, sometimes you can see them going up at night. It's really, really bright, like a really bright airplane going up. It's a fun thing to watch. So let us know if you've ever seen one. So for our engineering challenge, I've got some ideas here on what you can do to maybe challenge yourself on this activity. So what could you change about that rocket design? So we used straws and a juice pouch and tape, and we had our basic shape and our fins. How could you maybe do that a little bit differently to make that rocket go a lot farther? So ours went a couple of feet across the table. Maybe you can use a bigger pouch. That could be an idea. Or maybe you can make a different shape with your rocket body and see how that changes it. So try it out. Let us know what you came up with. The handout that we added to the chat box has a log on the second page where you can keep track of what changes you made and how successful your launch was, how far it went. So let us know. Try it out. Try different materials, try different shapes, and see what rocket goes the farthest. Maybe you can have a competition with a friend and see who has the fastest or who has the farthest flying rocket. And then maybe you can go next step and maybe you can work on your fins and see who can aim their rocket and get it to land in the perfect bullseye. That could be another fun challenge. So try it out. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you observed. We have tons and tons of other science activities that you can try at home that you can find on Science Online. So if you go to hcplc.org/kids, Science Online is one of the fun resources that we have on our homepage. So hcplc.org/kids has all of our great kid digital resources. Go to Science Online and it'll have a button there where you can look at different kinds of experiments. Lots of fun ideas on there. We also have 3D models and things that you can check out from the library. We call that Realia. So if you go to hcplc.org/books/Realia, you'll be able to find all about those models. So you can even check out, like these kids here, check out a whole telescope. So if there's something fun that you want to look at in the night sky, check out that telescope and see if you can observe it. We also have some fun activities coming up for the solar eclipse coming up in October. So if you go to the library's website, by the time this is posted on our YouTube channel, you'll be able to see hcplc.org/eclipse. So you won't be able to see it yet if you're on live tonight, but by the time this is posted, you'll be able to check out that URL and see all of our fun eclipse activities coming up. And if you have any questions, you can reach us anytime, hcplc.org/contact or 813-273-3652.